There is no one way that you can follow to become a better software engineer. Every one of us has their own journey, and you run uniquely through this journey, and you run it through multiple experiences. And each one of these distinct experiences gives you your collective as a software engineer. And it's fascinating when you think about it. But from my close to 21 years in software engineering professional career, I've been coding more than that. I noticed that one gets better as a software engineer when they go through these stages that I'm going to talk about in this video. And I made a post about this and it got some traction. But I thought that I will elaborate on that post in this particular video and explore every one of these 6 stages that takes you really from yourself back to yourself. And I'm going to explain what that means in this video. So the first stage is understanding a technology. You see, we use all sorts of technology all the time. You know, it could be a framework, an API, a certain library, the OS, the kernel. We use all sorts of tools. And this is not a call to action to understand everything you use. Right? I drive cars, right? But I really don't know how technically the car works. I might have a vague understanding of how a car works, nor do I have the interest to actually understand how a car works. And that's fine, right? Same thing with the technologies we use. You might use React or Next or Node, and you have zero interest to understand how it works. And that is fine. I just want to let you to know that this is fine. It's that spark that gets ignited by itself. When you see something, he says, oh my God, I really want to know how this works. I really want to know how Postgres buffer pool cache work. I really want to know how the OS disk page cache work. And it just happens. And you cannot force this stuff. It just happens. You know, when you're interested in something, it's just there. Interest cannot be forced. It can be ignited, though. And igniting an interest could happen from others. So, hey, you want to check this out? This might be interesting. You might be interested. And you need this initial push. It's like, that sounds like a drag. But you go there and it says, oh, actually, I found it interesting. And you need to kind of differentiate that. Like when exactly, what is that line? And that's what really matters. When you have interest in something, just pursue it, yes, right? And then go through it. And now you try to understand it. Now you read about it. You follow people who tweet about it or post about it. You listen to podcasts about it. Then you just read anything about it because you're really interested. You might open the source code and start reading the source code. You might read the doc about this technology. Because when you truly understand certain technology, and when I say technology, I mean really I refer to software in my particular case because that's where my experience is. You will work around it better. You know, you will appreciate it more. You will see that it exists. It's there. It's not like this black box anymore. And that's just the first stage, understanding the technology. You know, it's like, oh my God. So when I create a connection, all of this stuff happened. There is this send and synac and ack, and there's all this data exchange, and there's the sequence numbers, and these segments, and the size of the segments is determined by the network path. So much other stuff. There is this initial cost of setting up the connection. There's the statefulness of this connection with all these metrics. There's this counters that the kernel keeps about this connection. Once you have a connection, packets, data come from the NIC, and the NIC goes, the data come from the NIC to the kernel, and from the kernel to the user application. You understand what's happening, and now he says, "Oh my God, what have I been doing? I have this nasty loop that creates connection with every request. Why am I doing that?" Something that sounds benign and simple enough and looks, innocent. It's no longer so innocent. It's harmful. It's costly. And you only questioned it because you understand it. Same thing with reading requests. There is a cost to that. Encryption. I don't want to go deep into every single, technology here, but I give you some examples with every one of them. It's just this appreciation, and I'm sure as you're watching this or listening to this, you're thinking about things that you run into, and you understand. The way you approach design, the way you approach coding, completely change when you understand the technology. And that's like a vague term, understand, because we're going to come to that. If there is a spark in you, pursue it. And you might have done this before, right? Absolutely. You might have done this before. You're just like, hey, there's a spark. I'm going to pursue it. And that's just the first step to become a better engineer, because, hey, you're pushing yourself towards doing something. So that's the first stage. The second stage is articulate how the technology works. Now that you claim you understand the technology, there is a little bit of thing inside your mind. It's called the ego. The ego will try to rise you higher, and says, "Oh, I'm the best now because I understand this technology. You cannot beat me. Right? I'm better than that guy because I understand, and he doesn't, or she doesn't." This stuff is really hard. It's not easy because you think you understand, right? But when you try to actually talk to it and speak about the technology, you're speaking from an elevated position to show off that you understand, not for the technology itself. Does that make sense? It's really difficult, by the way, because there's like I know that's like a little bit of a philosophical video, more like than software engineering. It's actually a mix of both, but that's the truth. Because why are you talking about something if you're passionate about it and you articulate how it works? This is where things start to get very interesting, because wait a minute, I'm trying to explain something and I see these gaps. You still start seeing these gaps that wait a minute, yeah, I'm trying to articulate this, but there is a lot of gaps. The person you're explaining it to might ask you more questions, and this is where it shines. If you came back defensive with these questions and try to shut them off, then you truly don't understand. The only reason you're speaking about it is because you want to show off that you understand it. Okay, but then if there's a flake of misunderstanding or there is a gap in you, the courageous thing to do is to admit that, oh my God, I don't really understand this. And that's, once you admit that, then all right, I thought I understand that. And that's where stage one. You might spend a year in stage one. You might spend a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then you come to stage 2 and you try to articulate and you, oh my God, there's all these gaps. And you feel really bad because like, oh, I spent 3 years learning. How come I still don't understand it? Well, that's the truth, right? Understanding is never complete. You're always going to have these tiny gaps. And these gaps are going to get tinier and tinier and tinier. But you have to allow yourself to fill these gaps of understanding. And that's by kind of stepping on your ego a little bit. Licking your wounds. The wounds of your ego. And you might notice yourself in this stage when you try to explain and articulate something. If you try to confuse the other party by using jargons for the sake of using jargons so that you show that you understand, then you're stuck here. You're just protecting yourself. You're just protecting your ego, right? Because the goal of you articulating this is just to show off that you're understanding the technology, which clearly you don't in this particular case, because you're not using simple language. You're not taking the person by hand and making them understand the technology or explaining it from scratch. And this is where passion and interest will ignite back up. It's like, what make you interested in this technology to begin with? That's where you need to go back and ask yourself that. And then feel okay with having gaps. I learned so much from this making a YouTube channel. Most of my content that I create, I get questions while I'm making the video. It's insane. Like, I understand this. I thought I understand this technology. I hit record and I start talking about it, and there are questions that comes to my mind as I'm speaking. Why this didn't come when I was just learning about it? It's weird. Or, which is mostly what's happening, is either on Udemy, on my courses, I get questions, and those questions I don't have answers to. I never got this question before. And this is where I do research, try to understand, and I go back and I answer this question. So, and same thing with the YouTube comments and Twitter questions. So it's very interesting. It go back to this articulating a technology really help you move forward, become really better. And that, when you truly can articulate it, this is where you truly understood the technology. And it's like this step 2 and step 1, it's like a loop between each other. Like, go to 1, 2, and then you go 2, and then you find out, oh, I tried to talk about it, but then someone asked me a question I couldn't answer, so I try to read more about this particular piece of the technology, and I try to go deep into that portion, which is very interesting. Like, I understand the TCP/IP. I'll give you an example. Like, I understand the TCP/IP. I understand there's connections. I understand that we're reading from a connection. We're reading requests, for example. But I say, all right, read the request. But then when I try to talk about it, it's like, what does that mean to read a request from the backend? Because that understanding, just that piece, reading a request, unlocks so much things in backend engineering. So many. Because just that determines how many requests per second you can process. Because reading is different than processing. You cannot process jack shit if you don't read the request, right? So if you're not reading fast enough, it doesn't matter if you have like 10,000 CPUs, right? Or 10,000 machines. You're not reading fast enough because you have certain delays. So this understanding comes to you when you try to even articulate it or even write it down as a post. Even some of you might be writers. Oh yeah, I want to write. write this blog post. And as you write about this blog post, you understand that, hey, I have a lot of missing stuff. So once step 1 and 2 are kind of done, or you're never done really, you're going back and forth between 1 and 2. You understand technology and you try to talk about it, you try to articulate it, you try to write about it, and you see something missing, you go back and understand more and learn more. And it's a loop. And it's a very long process. And you'll always think you understand something. And there is collateral knowledge that comes into the picture as well, where, I need to, in order to learn this piece, I need to learn about this piece, I need to learn about this piece, I need to learn about this piece. So as you go, you're learning collateral knowledge in the process, in the way. And the third step is you're going to learn so much about a technology that the limitations of the technology will start to be, the outline will start to show itself. In Japanese, sonorinkaku nas. So what happens is that outline is basically the boundaries of this technology, this limitation. This is the box. And now, this is really, really a powerful thing to understand. To understand the technology limitation is to walk with it as opposed to fight it. Whip it into shape. You understand? TCP/IP has its own limitations. If I use TCP/IP on top of HTTP2, there's this headline of blocking because of the nature of TCP. Is this the TCP fault? No, it's whatever you did not understand how TCP worked. You just built this on top of this. Then you realize that there is a limitation. Is this the fault of TCP? It's just, this is how TCP works. It's just the nature of this thing. So understand the limitations so that you can build applications around those limitations. And you design software with those limitations in mind. And it's a very critical step to understand the technology limitation, because now when you're building an RFP or you want to design a software and you want to use certain different stacks or protocols or anything, you know the limitations. You say, all right, if you want to get to this goal, using this technology will give you these limitations because of the inherent limitations of the underlying technologies that you're picking. If you don't, you're just walking blind. And there's a lot of examples where we didn't understand the technology, we used it, then we learned about its limitation. So now we're back to step 1. Let's go and understand the technology. Let's go and articulate how it works. And then let's go and understand its limitations. Now that I understand limitations, in this case, sometimes it's too late. You design the whole software and then you build it on something you built your design on the basis of its limitations. And then you discover the limitation later, it's just too late. Now, of course, ego will kick back in. Says, no, I cannot give up. I need to work around it. And you might tweak a little bit. And this is where the next step comes in. This is where you get very frustrated. Stinking technology. If only we get something better. If only we have a better framework. If only we have a better JavaScript framework. No, it sucks. Let's build something else because this is slow. Let's build something else. And this step 4 is the next step. Because we understand the limitation, instead of acknowledging the limitation, it says, all right, well, we screwed up. We didn't know what the technology limitation is. We built around it, and we have now a kind of flawed software. Right? As opposed to saying that and says, all right, let's just work around this technology and let's make it more concrete. You might take the other path where you become very defensive. It says, it's not my fault. It's this thing. This thing stinks and I hate it. And I'm going to build something better. Stage 4. And now, stage 4 is where it's an optional stage. And you might approach this stage with anger and frustration, which is 99% of all the software is built out there, is just approached with extreme vulgar and anger and hate, because you can clearly say it. Hey, we did this. Here's the benchmark. We're faster than X and Y and I break my lights. X and Y and Z. We're better. Because they tried to use it. They saw a limitation, but instead of... And don't get me wrong. Don't say like, oh, don't build anything new. I'll come to that. You can build something new, but build it because you want to build it, not because you're angry, right? Not because you want to just, take revenge and prove that you're better. That's... And I'm speaking from experience, because I ran through this frustration. I'm not a holy man by any stretch of the imagination. I've made mistakes, right? And I'm just, giving you an example. And you will react to this, I'm pretty sure. Because building something better, because you have this reaction to unexpected limitation that you found about technology that you truly did not understand, is kind of your fault. It's not the fault of the technology. And the sooner you accept that, the better you're calm and relaxed. Because you're going to go through these meetings with the vendors and the venture capitalists with ammunition to attack existing technology. That's all what this is about. It's about one-upmanship. Just get better. I want to be better than you. I want to be better than this technology. And it's such a beautiful thing to witness, because that's just what human beings are. We're just, creatures of habit and egoistic, creatures. And you can see it written all our software out there. It's just out there. It's fascinating. It's like you can look at software and it's like, oh my God, whoever built it is just full of anger. There's no love in this technology. Some cleverness, but sometimes you feel the frustration. It takes time to understand this, but you'll see it. When you see something, you feel frustration in the documentation even. It's like, oh my God, this guy is really pent up. Anger. Chill. But trying to build something better because of this reactivity of something you did not understand, and it's like, all right, this sucks, I want to build something from scratch, is not the best way to go. Right? However, just shifting that, it says, oh, all right, so we have the limitation in TCP that every packet has to be ordered. And what I'm building really is a message-based system, not really packet-based. And messages does not have to be ordered, but the messages content itself has to be ordered. And it seems like TCP does not provide me this feature. Can I build the same feature around multiple TCP connections? Probably. I can do that. But it seems like we reached the limitation of the TCP. I like it as it is, but for what I'm doing, this won't work. I need to build something else. And you approach it from a logical, calm, and pure excitement and interest to build a new protocol, to build a new framework, to build a new library, a new in-memory database. And when you go from that angle, again, this whole step is optional, building something better. But approaching it with a little bit of a calm mind, with pure interest in mind, as opposed to reactivity of frustration and anger of the technology, it's of your best interest as a software engineer. It's just, you can sleep better at night. Right? You're not rushing, huffing, and puffing every day to make this software better. No, you don't want to make anything better. You're here because of passion. You just want to build something, yeah, sure, better. But you're building it. You want to build this because the first thing in your mind is just you have pure interest in this thing. I can't stop thinking about this. I just can't wait to get up and open my computer and build this thing. And it doesn't have to be coding even, right? It's just even designing the thing there is so much joy in the process of designing a new protocol, a new application. So building something better. Because if you have in the back of your mind that what you're building is going to be flawless and has no problems, or it's going to address only the limitations of this and it's going to have no other problems or limitations, and if you put this in the back of my head, no, I'm not going to even think about what the problems they're going to have, then you're into a reality check, because there is nothing out there technology-wise that has no limitation. And you might try to pursue that if you want. I came to a realization that zero technology have a limitation. There's nothing out there. But don't take my word for it. Go pursue your career for the next 40 years and find out that every technology will have a limitation. Even if it's not clear now, it will be clear in the future. It will be clear for certain use cases. And then that back to step 1. Step 2, understanding the limitation. Step 3. So this is where step 5 comes into fruition. Step 5 is stage 5. Realize what you have built, if you built it. And when I say built, doesn't have to be like, yeah, you finished the product. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be. You wrote a document, a design document. You finished the design document. And at the end of the design document, you're about to start implementation. That's where you realize that, wait a minute. Whatever I just designed or built actually has limitations. And then everything just calms down. Once you understand that what you built also has limitation, then we're back to square one. There is no escape, because whatever you just built also has different sets of limitations. How many marketing ads did you get for certain software only to implement it for 3 years, only to find that it solves the original problem? Sometimes it doesn't even, but then it creates a completely different set of problems. How many? I'll wait. Go name them. So many products came with their own limitations. And then you might get stuck into this stage, and that's okay, because the stage will be back to your ego. It says, no, you guys are wrong. Actually, yes, there is this limitation, but if you only do this, it will be solved. But if you only do this, then it's going to be okay. But yeah, why are you doing that? That's dumb. Why are you doing this use case? That is so dumb. That's so stupid. Stop doing that. Stop doing this use case. No, that's wrong. Yeah. And then you start arguing with people about their own workflows. It's like, oh, you're now being so defensive that now you're attacking people, right? For whatever they've been doing for years. That they're wrong for doing what they're doing, but they decided to use your software. And eventually you'll calm down, get that stick up your ass, out of your ass, and then you'll just say, yeah, maybe they're right. Sorry, guys, that software is not for you. And then, oh, that's so relaxing. The moment you just surrender that, hey, life is this. Things live and die. Everything is built for a reason or no reason. Depends what you believe in. And whatever I built because I enjoy it. That's the only, I suppose, productive reason to build anything, to design anything. If you want to do music, if you want to write music, who writes music to be beneficial? Right? Or who does a painting for the good of humanity? You just do it because, like, hey, there's something that itches me and then I had to draw it. Right? I wrote a haiku yesterday. Right? Haikus are so amazing. And not because of the restriction. Haikus just brings you right now in this present moment, right? I was just taking a walk, and it was sunset, and there was like 2 palm trees, and the sun came up. It was sitting behind those 2 palm trees, and there was a house, and there's like the how beautiful the sunset looks, and I just wrote a haiku there because we rarely just sit down and then appreciate what's there. I might read it for you. Actually, it's right there. Orange rays between 2 palm trees, step by step. Might be silly, but I just wanted to capture that moment into these 7 words or whatnot. And it's just like, it shows you like how life is about just appreciating what you have right now, just living it, which takes you, speaking of appreciation, to the step number 6, and the final stage is like, I really like this original technology that I spent a year learning. And just you look at it with all its flaws, with all its beauty, with all its pros and cons, and you just say, hey, there you are. There's this technology staying as it is. Node.js is pretty cool. The event main loop, the design to have the poll stage queue, the fact that we're using KQs on Mac, the fact that you're using ePoll on Linux, and you just look at it and says, all right, this is what it is. This is what it does. And it's just as it is. You look at it and it's just, oh my God. It's not trying to be something else. Right? And I'm giving Node as an example because I'm making a course on this technology. But yeah, any technology out there, just appreciate it as it is. You don't judge it. You look at something, it says, all right, you do this. This technology does X. And when it does X, it behaves like this. And we happen to call this behavior limitation because we're always like to look at bad and good, right? Limitation, this is where it hits its limit. Right? There is always yin and yang and everything. So there's good and bad, there's black and white, there's pros and cons and everything. And this technology is like it's what it does. You cannot have a technology without its limitation, because the limitation is what makes the technology unique. Some people might argue that some limitations are what makes the software actually powerful. In this particular case, it just powers it. Heck, if you don't have limitation, you cannot appreciate other technology. I'm gonna break this slide again. If one technology A doesn't have this limitation, you will not appreciate technology B that solves this limitation. Yeah, you will never have. If you don't have a benchmark that says, oh, this database is really slow in writes but is really fast in reads. I mean, you don't even know what fast mean without comparing it to something else that is slow, right? You don't know what fast means unless you see slow. So you need something else that is fast in writes that says, oh, we're really fast in write, right? The problem with the new thing that comes in, they don't admit that they are slow in reads. Right? That's the problem. Just like, God damn it, just admit that, okay, we're fast and right, but we took a hit because we solved this limitation, but we created other problems, you guys. And here, we're all in the open. We're fully criticized. I hate when someone's like, oh, we're fast in everything. Come on. How you are fast in everything? What is this? What is going on? There's no balance in life. You're all positive. You're just going up in the air. What does that mean? You must have something limitation. You gotta have that, because once you have that limitation, whether you realize it or not, eventually another database will come into the place and then will fix your limitation and then will screw something else up. And that's what life is. It's about fireworks and having fun about everything out there. Right? And that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that you should not build something new because you have to appreciate what you have. No. Screw what is out there. I want to build my own stuff. Just because. And that's what matters. I want to build my own stuff because I want to build my own stuff. See you in the next one.